Hey everyone, Ryan here at Etrailer. Today on our 2018 Subaru Forester, we're going to be showing you how to install the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver. But because there are a lot of hitches available for the Forester, let's take a minute, we'll check this one out and make sure it's going to be the right setup for you. When it comes to the Forester, this is a really popular vehicle for people who like to go out and on adventures and things like that. And having a hitch back here will allow you to pull your trailers around or use those different types of accessories. There's two different styles of hitches available for the Forester. I guess you could say some that are more visible and then some that are more hidden, like this one here. So with this one, the majority of the hitch is going to kind of sit up behind your fascia, and you'll really only be able to see the receiver tube opening, which I like. You know, it looks almost like a factory type option, as to where some of the other hitches, the more visible ones, the whole hitch will kind of hang down below the bumper and be visible. Now on a vehicle like the Subaru, you know, that definitely doesn't look out of place by any means, but it's really just going to depend on what you're going for. With that said, the ones like this that sit up behind the bumper do tend to offer a little more clearance in terms of sitting up a little higher off the ground. This hitch is going to have a 2" by 2" receiver tube opening, which is a good thing. Extremely common size, so a lot of stuff will work with it. It is going to use a standard 5/8 pin and clip. One doesn't come with the hitch. If you need one, you can always get it here at Etrailer. Or a lot of times too, if you end up buying a new accessory, they'll come with one. So something to look out for there. And as far as the safety chain openings go, it should work with just about any size hook that your trailer might have on it. As far as the hitch's weight capacities go, it's going to give us some pretty good numbers. Maximum gross tongue weight rating is going to be 525 pounds. And that's going to be the amount of weight pushing down on the hitch. So that's good for just about any size bike rack or cargo carrier, to give you an example. And for the maximum gross trailer weight rating, that's going to be 3,500 pounds, or the amount of weight pulling on the hitch. So that is the weight of your trailer, plus anything that you might have in or on it. Now with that in mind, I do always like to recommend, it's always a good idea to grab your Forester's owner's manual. That way you can check in there and make sure your Subaru can handle that amount of weight safely. We'll grab a couple measurements, and these will help us figure out what type of accessories will work best. If you go from the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, that's going to be about 15.5 inches. So if you plan on pulling a trailer, you can probably use a ball mount that has a straight shank or one with a very slight rise, maybe an inch, something like that would work well in most scenarios. And if you're using an accessory, one with a straight shank would be fine, gives you decent ground clearance. If it has a rise in it, even better, buy you more ground clearance back here. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of the rear bumper, that's only going to be about 2 inches, which is really good. So you shouldn't really run into too many issues here, but if need be, you can use that to help figure out exactly if any of those folding type accessories you might have can be stored in that upright position without hitting the back of your Subaru. The hitch is going to work with the Foresters that have either a single exhaust or a dual exhaust like ours does today. It does sound like some people run into issues, especially with the dual exhaust models, of the hitch kind of sitting close to the exhaust and causing a little bit of rattling. So during the installation, I'll show you a couple things you can do to correct that issue if it's something you happen to run into. But aside from that, you know, a hitch you really can't go wrong with. It looks good, has good capacities, and can't really ask too much more from it. As far as the installation goes, it's not that it's super complicated or anything, but it is a little time consuming, and some things are kind of tight and tough to get to, but it's something you do one time, right? And then you get to enjoy the benefits of having a hitch from then on out. So if this is something you don't feel like messing with or don't have the time, I get it. You can always use our dealer locator network, and hopefully that can help you find a shop that can do it for you. But if not, and you're going to do this yourself, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead and get started on it now. To begin our installation, we're going to be working underneath the back of our Subaru, and we are going to need to lower the exhaust down some to give us room to work. But prior to doing that, I like to take a strap, just run it from side to side. That way we can have some control on how fast and how far we let the exhaust come down. We're gonna have several rubber isolator hangers that are holding the exhaust up. So 2 on each muffler, 1 here and 1 on the other side. It'll be set up the same way if you happen to have dual exhausts like we do. But what you wanna do is spray them down with some soapy water, and then I like to just kind of work the exhaust back and forth to help loosen it up a little bit. And then I have a pry bar. You can use a big screwdriver too, whatever you got, to just work one end of the hanger off that metal stud there. The other one on our muffler is going to be located right here. And we'll do the same thing to get it removed. And we're going to have one more here in the center of the car. We'll do that same thing to get it released. And once we have all them free, you can then loosen up our strap and let the exhaust come down a little bit. We're able to get our heat shield removed now, and from this point on, whatever we do to one side of our vehicle, we're also going to do to the other side, because it'll be set up the same way. But these are going to be held in place by 4 10mm head fasteners. And we can lower this down and set it off to the side for now. On the bottom of each frame rail, there's going to be 4 rubber plugs that we can remove. And with these, you can just take a flathead screwdriver and pop them right out. Moving to the very back edge of our fascia, on each side there's going to be a push pin style fastener. And you can take a flathead screwdriver, trim tool, and pry underneath the head of the fastener. Let's work it out. And then we'll have this metal tab. I'm just going to kind of bend that a little bit to give us more room to let our hitch go up into place. To get our hardware in the frame, we're going to be using these fish wires. So we're going to have 3 attachment points. This one, and this one. And then this larger opening back here, that's going to be our access hole where we can actually get the hardware inside of the frame rail. And so you want to start with this hole closest to the back of the vehicle. And what I like to do is just kind of eyeball the distance there and put a little bend in the pull wire. Seems to help out a little bit, but we'll take the coiled end, push towards the front of the vehicle. And sometimes you get lucky and that pull wire will just kind of drop out of the access hole there. Other times you'll have to kind of help it out a little bit. But once you have the coiled end through, you can take a spacer block, slide that on, then a carriage bolt. We'll thread the carriage bolt onto the pull wire. And feed it up into the frame one at a time. Pull on the other end of the fish wire until that bolt drops on down through. I'm just going to use that same hardware combination and technique to get the rest of the hardware in place here. We can grab our heat shield now and get a small portion of it trimmed out. You can refer to the diagram and the instructions, but it's just this little section here that I marked out. I'm going to use a pair of 10 snips to cut it. When you're doing this, be careful because these edges can get pretty sharp. Just keep that in mind. And we're doing this that way the heat shield don't cover up our attachment points. We'll take our trimmed heat shield and reinstall it. And for the time being, we're just going to secure it with these two fasteners here towards the outside of our vehicle. We are going to need to trim a small portion of our fascia to give the hitch room to sit up there. There's a diagram and the instructions and some measurements you can follow. And I like to use a multi-tool to do this. Seems like it gives you a clean cut, but a regular pair of snips or a Dremel tool, whatever you got will get the job done. Just make sure you don't have nothing behind there, no wires or anything, which we are all good. So I'll go ahead and get this material removed here. At this point, we're ready to put the hitch up into position. I figured it'd be useful to touch base on the hardware that we're going to use to secure it though. So the holes in the hitch will line up with our bolts coming down through, and then you'll pull off the fish wire, and then you'll put on a conical tooth washer. Make sure that the teeth on the washer are going to face up towards the hitch, and then you'll just follow that up with a hex nut that'll thread onto the bolt. That's going to be the same setup for all of our attachment points. If you have someone that can help you out with this part, definitely makes it easier, but you'll take your pull wires, drop them down through the corresponding holes in the hitch. And it seems to work all right. You kind of get it to this point where it's setting on the exhaust a little bit, makes it a little more stable to get all those wires down through the holes. But you want to do that on both sides, kind of have it ready to go here. And then we'll raise it up over the exhaust. We'll probably have to kind of pull back on the fascia a little bit. It's definitely a tight fit. And I think what might be going on is our exhaust hanger here. It's kind of getting the hitch hung up. So I might grab my pry tool and my water, pop this off, and that should give us a little more clearance to get this up there. And that is indeed what was kind of holding us up there. Once you get it in place, take that hardware that we talked about, and we'll get at least one started on each side hand tight. That way the hitch will support itself. If you need to, apply side pressure on the washer. That'll push up against the bolt, making it a little more steady, easier to get the nut started. I got the rest of our hardware started, and then we can come back with an 11/16 size socket and snug it all down. And then the heat shield, we'll take the other two fasteners, factory ones, put those in, get those tightened back down. Since I'm right here, I'll take that hanger that we had to pull off and get that pushed back on. You want to make sure now and come back with a torque wrench and tighten down all the hardware to the amount specified in the instructions. At this point, you can rehang the exhaust the opposite way that you lowered it. You know, spray the hangers back down, raise them back up into position. Don't forget to, as well, take the pushpin fasteners and reinstall them. And if you happen to run into any clearance issues, you know, if this exhaust hanger, the metal part is really close to the hitch, you don't want it to get too close and rattle. So you can always just bend this out of the way a little bit. You know, I'm just going to use a big pry bar. You can work that over and do it accordingly on each side if needed to eliminate any of that potential rattling. But other than that, that'll about do it for our look at and our installation of the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2018 Subaru Forester.